Market is back with volatility. We are 4.5% up for the day and close to $1.3 trillion. But does that mean we are out of the bearish territory? I do not think so. There is a huge possibility that we may see a corrective leg, but before that, you need to understand that within that corrective leg, you may still get a small drop first, which actually pushes the price back up, retest this range, and then get rejected. Now, that's still a fair assumption saying, okay, that can still happen in this market. If not, understand this is going to be a leg to the downside where bulls may try to defend this level, but most likely we may break that to the downside. We need to actually look at the general market and understand what the dollar is doing in the macro. We're not yet breaking this level and getting a confirmation on that end, because on the macro scenario, we do see some of these cryptos are trying to move higher. But while we look at XRP, while we look at Ether, we do see some possibilities suggesting like, okay, we are still underwater. So these are all short-term scenarios, right? Because when you actually zoom out, look for the macro, you do understand like its macro scenario is bullish. See, right now, if you go into the Bitcoin side of things and look at the market, asking the same question to yourself like, okay, what am I really watching here, right? And that's when this thought process comes alive. Like a few days back, while we were discussing this in the group, we shared a thought process like, okay, we're going to do something like this. Great. And right now in the market, when you actually look at that, you actually see similar movement. You actually went up, you came back down, you started bouncing back. That's exactly what we actually shared for the market. Then we showcase the possibility that the market is about to go higher, and most likely it's going to come close to 30,000. Now, we observe that yes, Bitcoin actually roughly touched 30,000, and the next day it actually came back again to test that level. So that level seems to be acting as a psychological level of resistance or people taking profits. What does that mean? Are we going to continue higher? Are we going to drop? And what should we look for in the next 30 to 45 days? Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where the normal retail guys get to learn how to become the next top 10% of this world. If you are looking at XRP, this is what the RSI looks like. We have discussed the same thing before, and I'm happy that it is following the similar path. So right now, if you are focusing on that, the positive scenario is getting a double bottom and then starting the move to the upside. So here, if we point that, you'll actually see the price coming back down. You go back up, test the moving average zone, and then come back down to make that as a double bottom structure. Great. So if we observe the same situation here, we're going to see this. We'll go back up, maybe test close to 0.48, 0.49, and then drop back down to this level. But we haven't yet visited the range of support here. So it's still open. Now, it's not like a giant leg to the downside. It still is a little bit move. So you don't have to go panicking, because that's a short-term movement which we are observing inside the market. But what creates panic there is the fact that Bitcoin has not yet bottomed. It has a long way before it actually starts the next leg. And we want to look at Ether and other alt market. And we do see similar possibilities. We are kind of underwater in the RSI. We have not yet broken this range back to the upside. Now, that kind of gives a little bit of confusing thought process, like XRP is holding, but these assets are not. And that's why the next level of support is important for XRP. See, close to 0.4, 0.42 is going to be an important level for XRP, because right now, if you focus on Ether, it dropped. Great. It's going back up. Fine. But if it gets rejected there, it's going to come back down, right? And that drop will come into a lot of different assets. Now, yes, that's all on a daily chart, a short-term scenario. And as you just zoom out, you get to see a clear picture like, okay, if that's happening, it's still fine because it's just coming back to test this range, the support resistance, before it actually bounces back up. And we also know that whenever we have seen the moving average, the 21 to 50 cross, whether it's the bullish one, whether it's the bearish one, after that cross or just by the time of that cross, we usually see the price coming back to test the zone. So if we take this here, we actually are observing the fact that by the time the moving average, the short one, which is the orange 21 moving average, crossed to the downside, the price actually went up first and then followed the direction of 21-day moving average. So for me, I would argue that perspective here, we're going to come back down, test the moving average. Now, the price is still above the moving average, which means when the price is dropping, the moving average is still going up. And that means you may actually meet in between somewhere here, maybe 1,650, 1,700, close to that range. And then you can look for the next run up following the actual direction of the short-term moving average here, which is the 21-day moving average. Now that is kind of a little bit easy way to understand this on a weekly chart. And then we go on the RSI. Now we want to actually use that and say like, okay, we are literally observing the fact that we broke to the upside. We are retesting that range. It all looks good. Now, to get more certainty about that thought process, about that argument, you can actually use a MACD because it also gives you as an oscillator, it kind of, shows like, this is how things work. So you're using the momentum to understand what really is happening in the market. And then you're coming on to the RSI and MACD. So here the MACD is in the positive zone on the weekly, which is a huge factor to understand because whenever you are in the negative territory, like that's one of the major reasons, as I highlighted another one last time. Now, this is literally like the most important thing. If you have read the book, The Most Important Thing, you know the fact that each chapter is introducing a most important thing. This is the most important thing, right? Similarly, here when we observe the fact that, okay, we were trying this, but we got rejected, we have to understand the fact that we were not about this level. So now when we are focusing on that, we'll understand the fact we are going in, we're zooming in, we want to see where we are. Are we actually dropping huge? Are we dropping hard? And I'm like, okay, we are still in the positive territory, but that doesn't mean we are out of corrective action, right? We have a trend line which we are following in RSI. If you drop that, it seems something like that. So you can still be at this level or wick to the downside like what we have seen earlier. So we cannot actually deny the fact that it is possible in this market. But what confuses us would be the market, like the stock market. You are looking at the Dow Jones, right? While you look at the market here, we've been following this from some time and we understand the fact that it is still here. But right now, you're not actually getting too much of a movement to the upside. Rather, it's actually showing you, I'm slowing down at this resistance. I'm at a short-term resistance. I'm at a medium-term resistance. So one is the short-term pattern here, the wedge, and another one is the horizontal level of resistance, right? The rounded bottom pattern. It may actually get extended to a cup and handle. We don't know. But the way we understand this is like, okay, the price is slowing down, and after running up like this, it is showing an inverted hammer or a hanging man, the way we call it, which actually means like, okay, now you have a higher odds in the market to drop. So if stock market is dropping, maybe in next 1 week, maybe in next couple of weeks, that means we will most likely see the crypto market following that narrative. And that's where I'm like, okay, now that means you have enough room to the downside, and you can even put the argument saying like, okay, if that is true, if I'm watching that correctly, then I'm going back to the macro narrative where I understand that this was the first leg. This was the second leg. This is the third leg. Now, I'm not saying it's going to drop directly like that, but it would be a slow drop, testing its support resistance, and coming back down. It can be close to 22,000 in that case. Now, the best scenario in that case would be the trend line acting as a support somewhere here, which would be fine. Now you can say like, okay, that doesn't actually match with wave 2 here, so we can put it up. But still, that's like $23,000. It's not where we are right now. We are right now close to 30,000. And what we are talking about is at least $25,000 to $22,000 per Bitcoin. That's actually a corrective leg to the downside. Now, there will be concerns while we talk about that. Putting the argument here like, okay, that means this is about to break. This has to stay. That's a lot of people's thought process. Agreed. It does look like it is strong. And if we come back down, it is still fine. But understand the fact that the range extends from 23,500 all the way up to 25,000. So even if we are just testing this resistance as a support, it does mean like we can still come low as 23,500. And it still matches with the pattern here, right? It is so clear in the idea here that, okay, we made this one. Great. But we haven't yet managed to go above this. So we are considerably, arguably, in any way, we are still somewhere here and we still have some room to go down. And that can create a huge opportunity zone. So if you're looking for this curve, you'll actually say, okay, that's a parabolic move, right? It just went nuts. Are we going to look at something similar here? I'm not sure, but the way we look at things on the macro, it does show you like, okay, micro corrections, whatever we are talking about right now is okay. It's possible. Market may actually show you that it will do that. That's on a daily, that's on a 4-hour, what we are discussing. But what we should understand is that this entire leg is going to be just the wave 1 scenario. That means you're looking for giant moves after the correction. Imagine you say, okay, it's going to come down to 23,000. Let's take the average. And it goes for the wave 2, which can be like 2 to 3 times wave 1 in wave 2. Let's be conservative. Even at that point, you're looking for something like $75,000 per Bitcoin. That's a conservative outlook of that. Because the way you can look at this is like as you go to a daily, 3-day, different charts, and you want to understand, okay, in last market cycle, when it actually moved up, what was the wave 1 movement? Great, that's a 45%. What exactly was the wave 2? Here, it's like close to 85%. Great, so you get 2 times that. And then, here we come and here we observe the fact that, okay, in this run-up, we got the short-term move 1, 2, 3, and that was the macro wave 2. So the wave 1 was like completely small, 150%, and the wave 2 was a giant 500%. So it was way higher than the 2 to 3%, 2 to 3 times. Now, if you say that's coming true, that actually means we are testing the all-time highs just in the wave 2, and you still have one more wave left. So you can put the argument, we are going to drop 40-50% after that. We may come here and then do another move up, maybe 100, maybe 110. That still takes you somewhere close to $90,000 to $100,000 per Bitcoin. So the way we talked about the stock market and its impact on the crypto market is actually the short-term side of it. So what we are looking for is a macro outlook, because we do understand that things are changing. This is especially true for XRP. If you are looking at XRP, there is a connection, right? We are like, okay, from Q4 2019, we're not actually observing a lot of sales in terms of programmatic sales of XRP into the market, right? We're not observing any of that. From that time at 0. And on the other side of this, you see that from Q3 2020, they're starting to purchase this asset back. That's huge actually, because this is in millions. Yeah, millions. So that's $45 million worth of purchase. And you come up to this point, you're seeing like, okay, it was 320 million, then a billion, 1.7 billion, 2.5, 2.7, 2.5. So they are actually literally buying from the market. So if you think like, okay, this asset is not valuable, understand the fact they're not selling this now. The circulating supply is not increasing heavily. It's only related to the actual institutional sales or the utility part. They're building the utility. There's a lot of developers who are working on XRP Ledger, building a lot of different projects. It's all happening right now. And these guys also believe the price is gonna go higher and they want a part of that asset. They already have a big chunk, but this kind of gives you the idea like, okay, they believe in the long-term value. And then this particular one, like Leonidas has posted both of this. So I'm looking at this and asking the question like, okay, if that's true, now none of these links actually works. I also double checked it and I'm like, okay, there is something like this, but we don't get to see what exactly that is. You can't follow up. I tried. If you get a link, please do drop that in the link and comment that. So now we are looking at this and asking that question like, okay, if that's true, that can be one of the reasons why Ripple was not selling into the market after that. Great. But this asset didn't start from 2018 or 2017. They started this a long time back. So literally it was there in the market until 2019 and they still didn't get clarity even if this is true. And in 2020, they just sued Ripple. Now, the market understands that there is no clarity. And we are looking at the politicians, the leaders, the Congress should act on this. And here you get the point like, okay, regulation by enforcement is not going to fill any gap. People are moving out of the country. And this is not just us telling right now. It's the Congress saying people are moving out, investors are moving out, jobs are moving out of this country. That's the US. Now they want to create something new following what the US has done. And, whatever you think about this guy's tweet here, it didn't get a lot of attention from my end, but this did. Like, they met with FTX. If they had told this back then, it would have worked. A lot of people lost a lot, right? It wouldn't have happened. And right now, look at the positivity from Coinbase while they're like, we're going to go into litigation and fight with SEC. Way there a couple of years back when this all started. Because as an exchange, instead of discriminating XRP back then, they should have stood for the asset. Because the claims from SEC was so bad. And it still is. It's now slowly rippling into a lot of different crypto assets. And now they feel the pain. But if you look at that correctly, they haven't delisted all the other assets. They still have them trading on their platform. Whereas XRP, they're not relisting that. That's bullshit, right? So I'm like, okay, whatever you say, I can look at you and say you are a legit human being in terms of crypto regulation, whatever you are talking. There is no truth in that. If it is true that you are going to fight SEC for a good cause for the entire crypto market, now you should relist XRP first because that's the company who actually went against it, right? SEC was saying, no, this is a security. And they're like, no, we don't think so, right? So right now the market is confused, 100%. And that's why regulators are trying to step in. And we really don't know how long it's going to take because usually these politicians are really slow. They work like a tortoise, that too like, a broken tortoise. But now what we are anticipating is that, okay, the market is about to do something interesting. The prices are going to go up and the FOMO should come in and then they will be more interested. There's a lot more talk about crypto. There's a lot more talk about the investments. There is a lot of new projects coming in, all those things which you have seen in 2017, then 2021, all of those is going to come back. And as they come back into the market here, we will see a lot more attention focusing on crypto. The media, the legacy media, the crypto Twitter, everyone is going to go in detail. That means you have possibility in this market to actually make money because you are early and they are going to just follow you guys. Now, while we put the same perspective here, this is what I'm looking for. That it's possibility we may actually just literally give another leg down and then start bouncing back higher. And if Bitcoin decides to go north because we have banking system again starting to shake. Another banking stock dropped like 92%. That's actually a huge drop just for a bank, right? After getting all this support from a central bank, if the investors are saying, okay, we don't give a shit about this now, that means now there is something wrong. People are getting afraid. They don't want money to be in such a bank Basically, they are pulling their money out. So that's something negative for the banking system, but positive for the crypto market, because last time when that happened, we saw crypto market reacting positively. From $20,000, Bitcoin went all the way up to $31,000. So guys, if you received value for your time, please do hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done that already. I'll meet you guys on the next video. Bye for now.